Okay, so welcome to the SAS via transition interactive sessions. So there's two links being shared here to view previous training sessions, and then for more information and upcoming events is that second link. Laura's going to be dropping both of those in our Zoom chat if you would like to access them. So just a couple of administrative announcements before I pass things over to Oren. Throughout this session is meant to be collaborative and interactive. So throughout the session, we will be utilizing Zoom breakout rooms. And then a CCSQ DNA team member will be in each room to kind of guide discussion and facilitate for questions. So if you have any questions outside of that, please feel free to ask them verbally or use the raise hand feature in Zoom. And then if you have trouble joining a breakout room, please feel free to reach out to Laura or myself, or you can just put it in the general Zoom chat. And then portions of this meeting are going to be recorded. So this first part where we're going to kick things off and kind of set things up. And then when we regroup at the end, the things will be recorded and then available and uploaded on the CCSQ DNA portal. And then at the very end, we are going to have a survey for feedback. So please feel free to leave your feedback there. If you have any other questions or things for us to consider, please make sure you're including that so we can continue to improve our offerings. So at this point, I'm going to stop screen sharing and pass things over to Oren so he can kick off our presentation for the day.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so thank you for attending this afternoon. So this is going to be an interactive session. The way that we do interactive sessions is that we prepare exercises for you, and we're going to give you some time to work on them, and you're going to solve them. And so I put it in the chat, the notebook, and I can try and do it again. I'll just put it again a second time. And so that is the notebook we're working with. And we're going to be working on something called Bamboolib. And if you went to our office hours, we did have a talk about this, gosh, I want to say a few months ago, not probably in 2024, but we did talk about it. But basically what it is, it's the low-code tool that basically provides a graphical user interface so you can analyze data. And basically you can load in data from a database table, a CSV file, or a Parquet file. So basically anything in the catalog or things on your workbench, you can put them in the Bamboolib, and then basically you can use it to explore or clean or visualize data. Mainly used for visualizations and exploring. And there are limits to it. It's not going to give you machine learning, for example. It doesn't really do regressions. It does do correlation. So there are limits to how far you can take it, but it definitely will give you a good start. Yeah, let me repost that. And then it also generates the underlying pandas code for anything that you do. So anything you create in the UI, you get the code for it. So it's a good way to learn pandas if you're not familiar with it already. So in order to do this session, what you're going to do is if you can go to File and Clone, you can clone the session. You can keep it the way you want. You go to Browse, and then you can click on For You, and it'll give you a suggested location. It'll probably be your main folder. And you just click that, and then you can clone it. And once you do that, also make sure to change your cluster. I am in the Cedar PDA QDAS cluster. So that's what I'm using. You'll want to change this to your org cluster, whatever that might be. Okay, the data you're going to be working with for this is the Titanic passenger data set in Bamboolib. It's one of its dummy data sets. And one thing you need to remember about Bamboolib, it is temperamental, so it will, sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't. You might need to click it like 3 times, 10 times. It'll work eventually if you do everything right. And remember that the stuff should be and questions to be answered only using the Bamboolib GUI. So in order to set up, you go to line 7, command number 7. These are the libraries you need to install, and you just hit that run cell button. And then you can do 8, and then you can do 9, which all you need to do is do BAM. And just to give an example, we'll run, it gives you this message. You do the second time, it works there. Sometimes it takes a lot more time than that. I'm going to delete this because I don't need it. And once you get working, you should have something like this, just to show. So you should be able to get to something like this. You get dummy data. It'll give you choices. You want to hit the Titanic passenger. Hit the data frame name, doesn't matter. You can just hit execute, and then you should get to something like this. And that should get you to the exercises. And you can start exercise number 1. We'll go till about 3:40 EST, and then we'll see how you guys did. We'll see if there's any exercises you want me to answer or focus on specifically, and we'll go from there. If there are any questions getting started, you can go into the first breakout room. And otherwise, if you have other questions, you can feel free to go into one other breakout rooms, and we'll be monitoring and watching to see whether people go there, so to see if we can help anybody. And otherwise, if you have any questions, feel free to put in the chat, go and say it on audio. It's supposed to be interactive, so we'd love to hear from you. And yeah, if there are no more questions, I'll let you guys work and write. Awesome. Can people go into the chat and write what exercise they got up to? Just to help us for future things so we know how many questions to do. And if there were any exercises that were particularly difficult or that we particularly want to focus on them.
And then Oren, in your current view, can you see the chat, or did you want me to go ahead and read those responses out to you?
No, I can see them at the moment.
Okay,
I see that
sounds good.
Jennifer got to exercise 4. Okay, you can talk about that. Okay, so probably too many then. Okay.
You have
So
way
let's
too much faith in us, Oren. But it's good to be able to like go back to and reference. We had some people in our room that just had some questions that we didn't get a chance to get through of creating the new column with the calculations, like the classifications and things like that.
okay. So let's start with these. The first ones are probably the quicker ones to do. So we can start with that. So the first thing I told you to talk about was the age field. And what you can do is you can select the age field, click on it like this, and it's going to show you all this stuff right here. You're going to see a list of missing values. You're going to see a list of unique values. You're going to see statistics over here. You're going to see positive values. You're going to see a nice little histogram over here that you can play with. If you go to the next one, you can see a categoric overview. And you can see that's going to be the mode, which I believe was one of the questions. And you can see the top 10 values and things like that. What else do we have asked here? So we can see that 177 missing, and you can see that there's 88 unique. The copy the data for the histogram, you just go here. And if we go down here, there should be a copy code up. There we go right here, you copy code. And I can paste it into a new cell, like so. And there you go, you have a nice little Plotly histogram that shows that. And then the most common value that was in categoric overview. If you go to this, you can see missing values, all 177 of them. You can see where they show up, which passengers, and you can look that up. And then you can see some bivariate plots. You can see how one variable impacts another variable. And it also uses PPS. Passenger ID is a primary key. So no, you have no predictive power, which is what you would expect. And then here you can see predictors. And this is how you can see which one's most likely to predict age. And we can see that is P class. And that should be everything for number one. Are there any questions about that? All right, so on to number two. And I'm just going to close that. I'm going to close that for a second. What you do here is you go to search action and you want to create a new column of formula. And there I can call it, I believe this was family size. And I believe it was excellent subspace plus parch. And I hit execute. We go over here. And I have my new field. For the next one, that was dealing with bins. So I want to actually want to go to bin column. And this will let me bin column based on age. It does let you do a number of things. One is fixed number of bins. So if I wanted 3 bins with just regular results, I could do fixed number. Here I wanted here I wanted custom intervals. So I'm going to choose that. I'm going to do 0 to 16. I'm going to call that child. I do 17 to 65. I call that adult. And I can do 65 to, it does make me put a number in, which is annoying. It would be nice if I could leave it blank. Maybe I can. But I'm just gonna make 120 because I know nobody's older than that. And then I am going to call this age group. And I can change how I want the bounds to go, whether I want it included, excluded, create that. And I have my age group. And then what I can do for the third one, and that is this one right here, that's fair per person. And that's going to be similar to family size. I'm not even going to bother. I'm just going to take, I'm just going to do the same thing, a different family size. I'm going to put this formula in. And then I could use, okay, then, okay, so maybe I will create, okay. And then and then the next one was your group. I'm actually going to, for this, I will copy a column. I'm going to copy fair group, execute, and then I'm going to go to, I'm going to put it in, I believe it is new formula. Oh, I can just use new column. No, I don't want to do that. I want to do conditional logic, I believe. Yeah, conditional format. And I'm going to do fair group, and I'm going to do right. So the first thing I would want to do is I would want to figure out what I want to do. I'm going to make it fair. If it is less than, and then I'm going to do 14.5. And I'm going to do fair group. And I will set it to a 1. And I can do otherwise a 2. And I can do things like that, for example. And I will set additional values. You have my 1 and 2. The way I chose the numbers I chose is because that was median, third quartile, and final. What you could do is you can go here and you can get a look at, just get a basic idea of how the things were created. And you can see this is your first quartile, that's your median, that's your third quartile. So maybe you want to do something with these numbers. And it really doesn't matter what you chose. The point was just to learn something. And that should be it for number 2. For exercise number 3, you want to do a group by to start. So we'll go to group by. And I'm going to keep things the way they are. I'm going to do it by P class and sex. And then my first value that is going to be, right, the mean survival rate. So I hit mean, and then I hit survive. I'm going to add a new column. I'm going to hit mean for the fair. Hit max. Fair. I'm going to want to save this in something different. I'm going to save it in just a random thing. And there are probably more. They're all going to be similar to this logic. And you can see I get a table that looks like this. Showing me the max fare. You can see that the max fare for, obviously, this is class 1 is much more expensive than the other ones. You can see that it's a really big difference because, 67 to 19, the highest one is 512. What's interesting is some fares in third class were actually as high as some of the ones in second class, which is surprising. And then you can also see survival rates. You can see that the higher class that you're in, the more likely you were to survive. And I don't actually want to keep this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo that last step. And what I could do if I wanted to, I could recover it if I wanted, or I can do more, I can change. But I want to keep things the way they are. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I want to go to pivot table. And let's see, yeah, it doesn't really matter how you do it. I'm going to do columns to start with. No, actually, okay. I'll make that survival, and then I'm going to go to rows, and I'll do P class, drive, and sec. And I want to make it a bit prettier, so I'm going to go to set position, and I'm going to set that to 2. And you can see, yes, and you can see it's showing me all these results. Not sure why it's showing me everything. I don't know why passenger ID is showing up, but you can get an idea of how this would look. And that is our pivot table. Okay, for number 4, we would do the plot expiration. And I just about out of time. For that one, we want to do based on colors. So we are going to do the following. I'm just going to do a quick, or that was a bar chart, I believe I wanted. And my x-axis is going to be P class. Y-axis is going to be survived. And actually, I'm just about out of time. So I'm going to go straight to the answer sheet. And yes, so what you can do there is if you want to do it, the first thing you would do is you would set your x-axis to P class, your y-axis to survive. And then in order to get it to show up in different colors, you would set your color to sec. In order to get your figure title, you would do the x-axis title. In order to set the category orders, you would do it by text again. and you would switch it, that would switch it so female comes before male. You would set them so female is first and the male is second. And then your bar display mode would be group. And then for number 5, you would select a pie graph for this, and your sector label would be P class, your sector value would be fair. And then you just set your column labels, you rename P class and fair to fair class and total fair. You would put a title in figure title, whatever you wanted to do. And then you could just hit the copy code button and you can paste and you can run the code. And for 6, you would select a histogram. Your x-axis would be set to age. You would set thin to 6. You would set color to survive. And then for the second one, you would set your x-axis would be set to sex. Your P color would be set to P class. And then your category orders would be set to 1, 2, and 3. Before you do that, or after yet, you need to set P class, change P class from an int to a string. And then you would normalize the value as a percentage. And then in order to save visualizations, saving visualizations can be difficult. And that's why you need to use something called Kaleido to do it. And basically, this is an example of that. What we're doing is we are bringing in Kaleido. And here what we're doing is we are creating a simple plot. And that's going to be, it's going to be a visualization. It could be something created by Bamboolib if you created this. If you created this plot, what you would do is you would run your code, you would run your stuff on an Bamboolib, you would save your code, and then maybe you would want to run it. So you would run it here. And you can't actually do it in Bamboolib itself just based on our system settings. It won't let you download visualization so easily. So you would need to copy the code and run it and then save it that way. And here what we're doing is we are converting the figure to byte. And then we're specifying our file path. And here we are, basically this code is taking the file and it's using some of the stuff there and it's going to write it out to the location. And if I were to run this, then this would show that it was actually created. And yeah, I hope that you got something out of this. It gave you a bit of understanding about how to use Bamboolib. And now I will hand it over to Julia so she can do the survey. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Oren, and thank you to everyone who joined us today. Just a quick reminder, this is a survey that helps us continue to improve our SaaS via transition offerings and learning sessions. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on your screen now. And then please feel free that when you are done filling out the poll that you can go ahead and drop our call. And again, thank you so much for joining us. Okay, it should be on your screen now.